Welcome to the podcast series of the College of Education and Integrative Studies. I'm Jeff Pass, Dean of the College, and we have here three distinguished educators who are graduates of our doctoral program. Why don't you each introduce yourselves and tell us what it is you do?
Well, hello, and thank you so much for having us. My name is Dayna Mitchell, and I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction in the Azusa Unified School District.
And my name is Robert Sortino, and I'm an educational consultant for the Paiute Shoshone tribe in Lone Pine, California.
Adriana Gonzalez. I'm the principal of De Anza Middle School in the Ontario Montclair School District.
So we have three educational leaders with us, and the question would be, why would you want to get a doctorate? How would that be something that would help you in your job?
One of the reasons why I wanted to get my doctorate, especially at Cal Poly Pomona, was the emphasis on practitioner research and as well as the emphasis in social justice in the program. I started the program as a middle school principal, and then as I progressed about a year in, I applied for a director of curriculum and instruction. So part of getting that doctorate work was to further my career, help me to learn some of the tools and strategies to be able to scale up from a district or from a school level administrator to a district level administrator.
So when you say practitioner research, what does that mean?
So practitioner level research would be learning how to collect data, do research at the school level that really, it adds value to the work that we're doing at the school site. So when we're looking at school improvement processes, for example, one of the things that we're working on is elevating the language of our second language learners. And so having a research practitioner background really helps us to look at best practices, what are other districts and researchers doing to be able to improve our second language learners and their ability to be able to access our education.
So one of the things that attracted you, I'm guessing, is that Cal Poly Pomona's program in educational leadership is not theoretical. It's really down to earth that you could use the very next day as part of your administrative chores.
Absolutely.
Okay, Robert?
Very similar to Dayna in the sense that I was looking for an opportunity that allowed me to gain proficiency in research. And I liked the fact that I could be a practitioner. At the time I stepped in, I was a director of curriculum instruction at a charter school. And I liked the fact that the work that I was doing in the classroom was relevant to what I was doing at the work site. And so I used a lot of the skills that I was gaining in the doctoral program to actually push and see progress in the educational environment that I was in. I was actually going through a WASC accreditation process during the time.
WASC is what?
Western Association for Schools and Colleges. And
so it's the organization that reviews schools and other educational institutions to make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing.
Absolutely. And having the rigorous experience of the doctoral program lended me to feel comfortable in that environment to lead my teams in how to look at data and how to do research. And I benefited, and more so, which was more important, is that the students benefit because of what I was learning.
And you were successful in getting your accreditation.
We received the highest possible accreditation, which was 6 years, with a one mid-year, 3-year midterm cycle review.
Well, that's very impressive.
You know, I think it's a really interesting question. I've had that question, why your doctorate, posed to me in different tones. Sometimes people just can't imagine on purpose going back to school to study. And so for me, it started with kind of a personal goal of being just that lifelong learner. I'm sure that's probably a shared thought by all of the doctoral students. It's just the learning never ends, and you come to a point sometimes when you just want more. And so that's kind of why I initially wanted to pursue a doctoral degree. Now, why Cal Poly Pomona? Cal Poly Pomona did something that other doctoral programs, a lot of online programs, which people who just want 3 letters behind their name kind of pursue that sometimes because it's efficient in some ways, I'm sure. But I was specifically looking for a program that has a cohort that I would go to class and be with and build relationships and communicate with, because I had that experience in a master's program that was also had a social justice focus, and I knew that I grew a lot in that setting, and that's what I looked for, and I really found here at Cal
So by
Poly.
a cohort, you mean everybody takes the same classes together and they go through course after course, year after year. So you really build those bonds. What is it about the cohort that really appealed to you? What's so special about it?
Well, for me, I would just say finding that a level of comfort to really build a level of respect to have discourse, because the topics that we cover, politically or personally or philosophically, people really have divergent ideas about. And so to be able to find a level of comfort in a group of diverse individuals, to be able to have discourse about really meaningful and important topics, and perhaps sometimes change your mind or shift your thinking. And it's, I guess for the lifelong learner, it's exciting and it's fun. And it honestly is just part of the goal of moving on and learning.
So part, I would guess, based on my own work in classroom discussion, is that in a cohort, you get to know each other. You're not just classmates, but you're friends and you're respected colleagues. So you're more likely to listen respectfully to one another, really feel safe in disagreeing with one another.
Yes, I would say so.
It's also a model where it's set up so we support and encourage one another. It's a very rigorous program. And so, and I was fortunate enough to have Robert in my cohort. And so there's different professions that come into this program: teachers, site administrators, district level administrators, higher ed admins as well. And so just the diversity of the different professions and the different thoughts that come into that, and it really does lend itself to getting the perspectives from different people. But it's really the support when you're feeling, gosh, I need to finish this assignment or this paper, or, can I get a thought partner, in my work, really someone who can give me that honest feedback that I can actually, I can use in my work.
Yeah, I thought it was critical for me to be in a situation where I could have an ongoing dialogue with people that were articulate, very intelligent. It allowed me to reflect and kind of be challenged in some of my own thinking and to grow as an individual. And I will say our discussions as a cohort elevated my ability to be more effective in the school district.
So it sounds to me like the doctoral work is different than work at the master's level, or certainly from the undergraduate level. You're laughing. What is it that sets it apart? People who've never attended a doctoral program might think it's just like any other course they've taken. What's different?
So I'll answer that to start us. I actually have 2 master's degrees, one in sociology and one in special education. And getting a doctorate was by far much more rigorous. And just I remember the first assignment that we received, and having 2 master's degrees, I thought I was somewhat prepared. And the first assignment was so challenging because of the level of research that was expected and the quality of work that was demanded. I remember even like crying about it and just going, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I am intelligent enough to handle this. But being a part of a cohort and finding out that my colleagues who I looked up to and were looking around going, all these people are very intelligent, were struggling as well. But we kind of fed off each other and worked together. That encouraged me. But it is the level of research that was required. And
what do you mean by level of research? Like, people think of research as, a scientist in a laboratory. What kind of research are you referring to?
So, like, I'll speak of my dissertation. I believe it is 38 pages of resources that I used to complete my dissertation. In my master's level, I would say I might have used one page of of resources.
We won't ask you where you got your master's.
I would say also just the practical part of that. So when I began the doctoral program, we began to think about the different topics that we're interested in and we might want to study, but you really think about something that's practical in the work that you're doing. And so my dissertation was the influence of lesson study on teacher practice. We've done a lot of work with professional learning communities in our district. We'd begun to do some partnerships with another district doing a little bit of lesson study. I began to be very interested in professional learning from the standpoint of developing teacher learning at the central office. And so as I dug into this and I did the research and wrote my dissertation, we did a pilot practice case study before we even got into our own dissertation work. That gave me the tools to be able to take that back to my district and do that work with some of our schools to practice. Just the idea of lesson study together within the professional learning community as a protocol has been very beneficial. And as a result, in our district, we've done a lot of work around that lesson study work. And we have been taking it to different schools and building the capacity of teacher leaders, our teachers on special assignment, and our principals as well to do the work.
So your experience suggests that it's a good investment for school districts to encourage their personnel to get doctoral degrees in educational leadership at Cal Poly Pomona.
I would say so.
Because it yields all kinds of benefits for the students and the teachers in the district.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
Back to your original question about how is it different at the doctoral level. So I earned my master's degree at UCLA and in educational leadership, and which was a rigorous program, I would say, more so than some of my peers that I knew that did other programs. But the depth and the breadth of research that we are required to not only do ourselves, but to read what was presented to us by our professors and what was required of us in terms of the products that we produced was far and beyond, you alluded to this, far and beyond what I was required to do in the completion of my master's program. And just being able to acquire a level of understanding that was much broader by going in depth in a topic, for example, through our dissertations. And I know I heard this from all of my classmates as well. It just changes your level of thinking. And of course, in my role as a school principal, definitely allows me to look at solutions in a multifaceted way. And I don't think that would have been the case prior to completing the doctoral program.
So in some sense, you're becoming an expert at a topic that you choose, and you're also becoming a more incisive thinker. Now, somebody listening to this might be scared. Oh my gosh, this guy was crying and this one didn't think she could make it. What helped you, besides the knowing that your classmates were in the same boat, what helped you not give up?
The intentionality of the program to start with some ideas on this topic. And then as we went through the program, the professors helped us to narrow. I think one of the strongest reasons for this program in particular, and the fact that students are supported, is because of the professors. They're highly knowledgeable, just incredibly supportive in every aspect you can. I mean, we emailed them and called them and met with them. They're available, they're accessible, and they're knowledgeable. And so speaking for, my cohort, I could probably say with certainty that that we finished, and we finished strong because of the support that we received from the faculty.
you've been talking about a dissertation. People may not know, what is a dissertation and how do you choose one? Tell us about your, perhaps just detailing your own research.
My dissertation was about the Promise Scholars Program, which exists in partnership with the Ontario Montclair School District and several colleges and universities and community partners. And I was intentional about the topic in terms of my role in the district, because I really wanted something that would allow me to learn more about the community that I serve, to connect with resources and individuals that work, in partnership with something that was really important to me, which was college access for my students. The demographics of my community are over 90% Latino. All of my students get free and reduced lunch at our school, and I know that's similar to many other schools. It's the same demographics I worked with for 12 years in Los Angeles, and so this idea of equitable college access was just very important to me. But the process of research and the steps that I had to go through and the individuals I had to meet and the things that I read and what I learned, I just feel like the preparation for me to continue and do what I need to do as a leader at a school site to ensure that my students are reaching the opportunities available to them. I just know that the process that I had to go through my dissertation was key in helping me build a foundation to really launch what the potential is for my students.
So in a master's program, you'd have chosen the Promise Scholars Program and said, okay, I'm going to report on its origins and what it's designed to do. But you've taken it a step further because you've got to research something.
Yes.
So what was your question?
I had 3 research questions, and they focused around what were the perceived benefits from the perspectives of the different stakeholders in Promise Scholars. And so it involved focus groups with college students, which didn't go as I planned, which is part of the process, right? And very in-depth interviews with leaders who were part of getting the program started. And so they came from various walks of life: school leaders, community leaders, nonprofit leaders, college partner leaders. And so the results were really quite eye-opening. In terms of the research, another thing I did was look in depth at the different types of college access partnerships that exist in different areas of the nation. And so what I was able to do in the end with the synthesis was really pick out some important details of what can be actionable by school leaders or even district leaders, counselors, teachers, and give some recommendations. And of course, for me, I feel like that really strengthens my resolve to ensure equitable college access for students.
So you didn't know you would have those results when you started.
I didn't know what was going to happen when I started.
Which makes it kind of fun.
Yes, it was fun. It was rigorous. It was difficult. It was very challenging, but it was fun.
Yeah. How about the rest of you? How did you choose your topic and what happened as a result?
Well, early on in the doctoral program, they talked about finding a flow where if you can find a topic that would allow you just to kind of flow into it, that was something that would sustain you through the end. And so the very first class we had was on leadership. And we read a book. It was by Metzger. I can't remember the actual name of the title. It was Balancing the Educational Life or something like that. And towards the end of the book, there was a paragraph and it talked about spiritual intelligence. And I was like, I've never heard that term before. But I'm a deeply spiritual person. And I was like, I need to find out what that is. And so I stopped reading the book that night and I literally did research on that topic all through the night. In fact, I didn't even go to sleep. I just took a shower and went to work. I was so fascinated by that. And as I began to dig deeper and deeper, I began to formulate this idea. I would like to find out if other administrators have had similar experiences as myself, where I approach difficult problems by tapping into my spirituality. And I wanted to find out, was I crazy? Was I the only one, or were there others out there like me? And I came to find out that there was a lot of research and a lot of information coming at different angles to tackle that topic. And so it was just absolutely thrilling. I literally found myself almost depressed when my dissertation was done, because I found such joy in reading about that topic. And I still read about it just because it is so fascinating to me.
And so for my topic on lesson study, we had already been doing a little bit of work in that with another district with some science teachers. And so I wanted to delve
And lesson study is getting teachers to talk about how they structure lessons.
Yeah, so lesson study, the process is it's a protocol that teachers would use in a professional learning community. And so a group of teachers would get together and plan a lesson collaboratively. One teacher from that group would teach the lesson while the rest of the group would go in and collect student data based on what the team decides. Then they come back based on the student data they have gathered. They look at the results of that to determine to what extent did we meet our learning objectives. And then they refine the lesson and teach it one more time. Another person teaches it to another group of students, and then they again look at that student data. So what I wanted to look at is to what extent did that really influence the professional learning of the teachers, and were they able to not only make those adjustments in that lesson, but really transfer that to their other lessons as well. And what I did find out was, yes, in fact, that is the case. But there are some factors, some variables that do have to take place while they're participating in lesson study. And one of the most important factors that we found out was something called the knowledgeable other. And that's really that content area expert who helps to guide them and takes them through an inquiry process. Doesn't help plan the lesson, but yet asks them very thoughtful, intentional questions to help push their thinking, to refine and help make the lesson stronger.
Wow. So those are all powerful examples of your work that has influenced your districts, but also, and your schools, but also yourselves. You've become different as a result of that. And I think what's really interesting is that we're talking about your dissertation. How long ago are we talking about when you finished?
It's been 2017. Yeah.
2 years?
I just finished this summer.
Oh, you just finished?
My diploma just came in the mail yesterday.
One of the funny things about academics is they discover that even though they've worked so hard on their dissertations and learned so much, nobody ever asks them about it. Did you have interesting reactions from your family and friends as you were going through the doctoral program?
I would say for me, just in terms of family and friends, very proud and a little unbelieving. Like, why would you subject yourself to that? But I would say just a lot of pride. I'm one of the older cousins of both sides of my family, and the first to reach a doctoral level. I was the first to get a master's degree, the first to graduate, I think, among my cousins from college. And so I feel like I'm setting a bar, for my younger cousins and for my students as well. Probably one of the reasons that I also wanted to. I want my students to see someone who looks like them, or looks like their aunt, or looks like their mom, who's also a doctor.
Yes, very nice.
I'm also a first-generation college graduate, first in my family to receive or earn a master's degree and a doctorate as well. So there's definitely that sense of pride from family and from friends. But for me, it's also it was always a personal goal, and just something that I can we work in a learning organization. That's what we do, and so I am a lifelong learner, and so even though I'm not in taking coursework, I still take online classes. I, participate in MOOCs. So constantly trying to, the massive online open courses at, different universities. We have a partnership in our district with Stanford University. And so we've done some work with them. And so they have reached out and they have opened up some classes for some of our teachers. So I get to be part of that as well. So any opportunity I get to continue in my education, I'm going to continue to do that.
I'm also the first and only person in the history of my family to have a doctorate. My family was very interested in what I was doing. My children are all adults, and so they would ask me about it. We'd dialogue about it. My wife, of course, was the primary reason I actually entered the program. It was a personal goal for me. I was a student who was in special ed, and I didn't learn how to read until I was in 7th grade. And so for me to be able to attain a doctorate in education was something very important, especially with the population of students that I tend to work with. I can look at them and say, I understand your struggles, but let me tell you where you can go. And so that was one of the motivations for me.
So it's intense satisfaction I sense from all three of you. So in the little time that we have left, if somebody was considering entering a doctoral program, what advice would you give besides attending Cal Poly Pomona?
I would say for myself, one, make sure that you have a strong support system. Make sure if you're married or you're in a relationship that significant other understands that there's going to be tremendous sacrifice, and be communicating along the process, and just being open, because because it's an EDD program, and you're a practitioner, you're doing research, and you're actually doing a job. So I mean, I would, as a director, I would put 75 to 80 hours a week in at my job. And then I would have to put in an enormous amount of work, 40, 50 hours for the doctoral program. And so your significant other suffers during that period. And so it's important to make sure that you're dialoguing during that time. And just be open with your cohort and your professors during that time when you find yourself wanting to quit, or you're struggling, or you're overwhelmed, or you want to give into your fears. And just surround yourself with people that believe in you, and just be open and honest during that process.
And I would say to choose a topic that you are passionate about, because when you find that topic that you are connected to, it's part of your work, it's part of who you are, it's what you believe in, it makes it joyful and it makes it worthwhile. And in the end, when you finish and you have this work that you've completed that is something that is personally and professionally satisfying and beneficial, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
And I would say, I'm sure what I will say is going to echo what you've both stated, but first and foremost, make sure your motivation is very authentic. So it's not because you want a degree to get a better job or to get more pay or just for any reason like that. It's because you're motivated to learn more. It's because you're motivated to achieve, to be a role model, because you're motivated to learn about a specific topic, because otherwise you won't make it. That support system, of course, is incredibly important, and you won't be able to make it as well if you don't ensure that all of those pieces of your life and you've lined up everyone who will be available to support you, because it does take a toll on the family. One thing that I always had to tell myself, because I have 2 young children and they grew up, they're now 8 and 10. So they grew up the last 3 years while I was completing my doctorate. And I had to tell myself, when they asked me why I had to go to school, I would tell them, and then I'd remind myself, don't you want to go to my graduation? Because it was important to me to picture them being at my graduation and to know that that would be an impactful moment for them for the rest of their lives. And that was part of what was making the journey worth it.
So I want to thank you. The 3 of you are fabulous ambassadors for our program. You've achieved so much and lots more to come. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.